Well, I think we're ready to roll here. I've got Mike. Yeah, we're live here. Well, it's great to be back in Elkins. I've been here a number of times over the years and really have appreciated your hospitality. I worked for years with USDOT and was here 3 or 4 times with them, and then at least one time with the Appalachian Regional Commission, and now back in my current job as Secretary of Transportation. I should have started by saying I'm Tom Smith, Secretary of Transportation for West Virginia DOT. So it's great to be back in Elkins. One of the endpoints of Quarter H, and you're going to hear us talk about that today, and so we're excited about what we can do. I think before we start, I would like to first ask all local elected officials, delegates, other elected officials to stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. Now, secondly, I'd like to ask our veterans, if we have veterans in the room, to stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service. The third thing I want to do today, with this being September the 11th, is to ask for if we have any first responders in the room, and I don't know if we will or not with this audience, any first responders. And if so, please stand and be recognized. And if not, I would actually like to ask us to have just a moment of silence remembering the victims of 7/11 and what that meant for our country. All right. Thank you very much. Road bond plan, and I'm not going to spend much time. I'm just going to give a quick introduction about what we've been doing at West Virginia DOH, and then very quickly I want Governor Justice to tell you what his views are and what needs to happen here very, very soon. The thing I'll say is Governor Justice had this vision, this bold plan. It's big, $2.6 billion, but it actually encourages even more growth beyond that. It's bold, 48,000 immediate jobs, immediate economic recovery, and it provides hope for our citizens of West Virginia, and it's something that we really need to do. It's more than just about fixing roads. It is this immediate hope. Governor Justice was the person who had the idea. He pushed it across the finish line, and here we are today. Now, we've been working really, really hard at West Virginia DOT to try to organize this, and I think we've done a lot of good first work, but I want to tell you that the road bond is so critically important to this. What we've done is we've gone out and really got a lot of early work started on smaller projects. Some of those projects are bridge replacements. If you look at this map over here on the left, there's 600 projects on that map. What you have to understand is you have to have all the parts of the governor's program to make all this work. There's 3 parts to the bonding. There's Garvey bonding, which is using your federal aid funds. There's turnpike bonding, which is actually using the tolls from the turnpike and bonding that out. And when you take all that together, you're able to get to these 600 projects, and we have work in every single county, every type of work that you can imagine, slips and slides and resurfacing and complete interstate reconstruction, bridge replacements, and some new starts, working on things like Quarter H. Actually, part of the governor's initiative is finishing up the Kearns to Parsons section. That is a GO bond, a general obligation bond project. But when you take all of it together, you get the 600 projects you have here. But if you look at the list over there to my far left, it's a list of the really expensive, bigger projects. Now, what you need to understand is that is what the general obligation bond program does. These very, very expensive projects that we have all over the state. No one is left out, but they're very expensive projects like Quarter H here. If you look up, US 48 right there is finishing the Kearns to Parsons section of Quarter H. That actually gets that open to traffic. So these are very expensive projects spread throughout the state, and we really have to have the general obligation bond program to do that. If we, for some reason, should not have that, then you have to go back and try to make do on the resources we have, and it's a terrible problem. Now, I'd like you to look over to the governor's right, this big pie chart. This really says it all. If you look up in the upper right-hand corner, the light blue, the Garvey bonds, and the brown color, that's the work we've already gotten out the door. It's about $415 million. And that's a really good start. But if you look at the size of the green, that is the general obligation bond part of the pie. It's the big kahuna. I mean, it really is the big part of the program, about 60% of the governor's program. And so it's so critical that folks understand that. Biggest misconception is that it requires new taxes. That is not the case. It does not require any new taxes. That work has already been done. Those taxes are there, reserved for debt payment. So, I think all of us as transportation engineers realize it's a no-brainer. It's the time to bond out when rates are low, really attractive, and we can get this work started, and importantly, provide immediate hope and immediate jobs for our citizens. So with that, with no further ado, I want you to hear from the man himself who had the vision here. Governor Justice has been hard at work at this, and it's hard to keep up with him the way he's been running around the state. But I am proud to be a part of his team and proud to welcome Governor Justice, our 36th governor, who's going to tell you about the importance of the road bond and what's coming up on October 7th.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tom. I'm going to go right here and just sit and just talk to you, okay? Because there's not that many people here, and I'm going to let you just ask whatever questions you may ask. I'll talk just a little bit. First of all, think with me just this way. Why did I run for governor? Do you think I did that for me in any way? I mean, what could I achieve for me? I don't want a thing. I don't want anything. I surely don't need the ego, because I'm not an ego guy. I don't need the status. I don't need the money. The only reason in the world that I ran for governor is because I'm sick and tired of West Virginia being dead last. And dead last in everything coming or going. Now, listen to me on this. When I walked into office, we had a $500 million deficit. Now that's just fact. This isn't smoke and mirrors, this is just fact. Now, you had a drug epidemic like crazy. You had people leaving our state, the only state in the union, losing population. What are you going to do? I mean, really, what are you going to do? Now, we can say anything we want about Jim Justice in any way. We can come up with something nasty and whatever, and everything, if you choose to do so. But the net of the whole thing is you had a $500 million hole and nowhere to turn. Nowhere. Now, I really mean this. I give the good Lord credit for all the good ideas in my life, and I'll take the bad ones and credit for the bad ones. But in the primary, I thought of the idea about the roads thing. Because here's the situation you're in West Virginia, and it's just fact. You can do one of two things. You can either come up with something that's going to create instantaneous jobs. This idea of going out here and building a park with 19 water slides in it and hoping people are going to come is great. Build the field and they'll come. Change the atmosphere and more people will come. That's great. But today in West Virginia, we don't have any money to create the atmosphere. And the other thing is, what if they don't come? You've got to do something to have immediate jobs. And it came to me, and I truly believe it came to me from the good Lord and everything, that the only way you can do that is the roads. That's it. The only way is roads. Roads that are on the books today. And roads do everything for us. I mean, roads give us a better standard of living. It gives us more attractiveness to people on the outside. Like, people don't have a clue what's here in West Virginia. Do you know that? I mean, people on the outside think we're just living in a cave and we've got to kill a deer every day to feed the kids at school. They don't know what we have. I mean, we have so much goodness here, it's unbelievable. But we've got to tell them and we've got to show them. Now, so, all that being said, we've got to have revenue and we've got to have jobs. In order for us to go somewhere, we've got to have that. Now, you can either do that, the way I see it, You can either do that, or you can do this. You can say, I'm not for anything. I'm not for anything. And the only choice you'll have is this. You'll have to take further cuts and lose more of our people. Our kids will go to Charlotte and Atlanta to get a job. You'll lose more schools. There is nowhere to turn. Somebody needs to wake up to the fact that there is nowhere to turn. There is nowhere that money's going to come to save us in any way. Now, so along comes this idea. And the idea is basically this, and no one's ever thought of this, but this is the idea. The idea is create some vehicle that has enough money, and then, here's the secret part, then put it together into a financial instrument, a bond, that will create gigantic money today. And when the gigantic money is created today, let every road job in the state today. Now, what that does is it creates massive amounts of instantaneous jobs. It creates massive amounts of revenue coming into our state. So what did we do? Here's what we did. The legislature was good enough to pass, I think it's like 3.3 or whatever cents on gasoline. Well, you're already paying that. A DMV fee increase, well, you're already paying that. A privilege tax that went from 5 to 6%, you're already paying that. And it gave the Parkways Authority the right to be able to to raise the turnpike tolls and give you an $8 easy pass if you ever drive on it. If you don't ever drive on a turnpike, you don't need it. But if you want an $8 pass, you can drive anywhere you want at any time in West Virginia if there's any toll on anything, and you don't pay. So all that is in place and done. So now your decision is really this simple. You're not voting on a tax increase. Whoever's telling you that is absolutely, that's just bogus. That is not true in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You're voting on just this. All the funding buckets are in place. You see, there's 4 buckets. There's the 3.5 cents or whatever it is on gas. Well, that's in one bucket. The privilege tax is in another bucket. The turnpike tolls are in another bucket, and the DMV fees are in another bucket. Now, that's done. I mean, that's what's going to pay the bond off. Now, if I'm selling, now you got to understand this because it's a little complicated. I got to go out and sell the bonds. So if I'm going to sell the bond to Tom Smith, he's going to give me money, right? That's what you do. The state sells the bond to Tom, and he gives me money. All right, now, Tom's got to know how he gets his money back. Well, how he gets his money back is these 4 buckets. Now, what if these 4 buckets wouldn't have enough money to pay him back? He loses his money, not me. He loses his money. But you know what? These 4 buckets are going to pay him his money back way faster than what we project because we're going to have an increase in population in this state. That's all there is to it. There is no place in this for a tax increase. No place. No place whatsoever. Or he wouldn't buy the bond. What if I said to Tom, Tom, I want you to sell this bond, but here's the thing, Tom, I don't know how I'm going to really pay you back. I may end up having to increase taxes and everything. He'd say, well, I'm not buying the bond. The funding has got to be there for him to buy the bond, and the funding is there. Now, it is as simple as mud, and that is just this is our chance. This is our opportunity. This is our chance. And if we walk away from this, let me tell you what you're going to have. The only money the only dollars that went into the budget this year was a revenue projected increase from me, and it was based on the roads. That's the only monies that went in, and you're $500 million upside down. Now, if you don't have that, I would say buckle up. You're going to lose more schools. You're going to lose DHHR. You're going to lose Medicaid. You're going to lose in every place you can imagine because there is nowhere to turn. There's just nowhere to turn. Now, on the other hand, if you do this, we're going to be on our way. Because and then I want you to ask anything. Because of just this, here's where we're going to be on our way. Severance taxes on coal today are a little better. Severance taxes on gas prices dropped a little bit, and but for the most part, they've been a little better. As time goes forward, I think there's a way to capitalize on the gas side and really be helpful to our state. But I would say this to you. The Trump administration truly wants to help West Virginia. Whether you like Donald Trump or hate the man in every way, doesn't matter. For whatever reason, he truly wants to help West Virginia. And just think about it. Think about this. How many times has the president or the vice president been to West Virginia in the last couple months? For crying out loud, they're almost becoming residents. You know, well, why is that? Now, you can like me or not like it, but it's me. It's me and my friendship and what they're trying to do. They're going to absolutely try in every way to create this natural gas Appalachia hub that is right in your back door. They're trying every way to look at doing something that I brought out in the campaign, and that is just this, creating an environmental subsidy that basically rewards people that are making a product out of our hardwoods because of what our hardwoods are doing to clean up the air. Do you know in West Virginia, our hardwoods clean up an equivalent to 21 coal-fired power plants annually? That's what our hardwoods do to this nation or to the world. We got to get something out of that. And they're working on it. So what I'm saying to you is I don't know exactly what the Trump administration is going to do for West Virginia, but they're going to try to help us. They're really going to try to help us. Except one thing, and this could very well happen. Let's say we vote no on the roads thing, which would be the craziest thing in the history of the world. It would be like this. It would be like me saying the legislature has passed these 4 buckets. And you got to pay them anyway. You're already paying them. You're already doing it. So the legislature's already done that. So what you're going to do if you don't pass the roads thing, you're basically going to allow government to pee your money away. That's what you're going to do because they're going to have the money. And they're just going to grow stuff. And you know what government does. They're just going to pee your money away. Or you're going to pass the roads thing overwhelmingly with a mandate that the Trump administration is watching like crazy. And then they're going to put all the money toward the roads and you're going to get your roads. Now you're going to do one of two things there. You're either going to let government pee your money away or you're going to let all your money go to the roads and build the roads. So at the end of the day, I would just say this. The last thing on earth we want to do, I think, is let the Trump administration look back at us and say, you can't help those people. There's no way. You know, for crying out loud, they had the opportunity of a lifetime here, and you can't help them. And so why are we trying to help them? That would be bad. The last thing I'll say to you is just this. If there's anyone in here that feels bewildered or mad or upset or whatever like that about me changing parties, let me just say this. I came to this show for one reason and one reason alone, and that is get something done. Now, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, an independent, doesn't matter to me. But I can tell you, I worked as hard as a human being could work. And I got the Senate on my side, and enough Republicans in the House on my side. And when it came to crunch time, you know, what happened in the House with 36 Democrats was just this. They didn't like the tax reform component in the budget that was going to help everybody. They didn't like the tax reform component that was for only the people with a $100,000 income and below. And it was a Republican idea, and because it was a Republican idea, they just fell all to pieces. And when they did, everybody dove in the ditch and it was over. And I'm not doing that again. I'm not going there again. I've got to go on a pathway of getting something done. Because at the end of the day, if we didn't have these roads, you know what would have happened right now? I mean, if you'd have autistic kids or whatever like that, we threw them to the curb. If you have Medicaid, we had big time issues. If you had K through 12, big time issues. We would have had to cut, we would absolutely have had to cut higher education beyond belief. You would have driven so many more people out of here, it would be unbelievable. And I can't do that. I just can't do that. Now, I truly believe that we're going to get something done, and we're going to do a lot of good stuff. Ask me anything you choose to ask. Please do. Please. Because, yes, sir.
I'm from Lewis County, and I'm a member of the Quarter Age Authority, Governor. And I want to thank you for switching parties, because you're the only Democrat I've ever voted for since I was able to vote, and you turned around for me. But I think you had, I love your program. I think we need to do the bond issue. It's extremely important, and you're right on target. But I have talked to a number of people from gas stations to Walmart to the Capitol in Virginia, in West Virginia. And you're right, the tax part of it you have to make clear, because no one believes that I have talked to, the common person here in West Virginia does not believe that the taxes are paid on this, and that is the most important thing you can get across. And the next word out of their mouth is, yeah, but you know what happens when we give them, if we get that done and we give them all that money, it'll never get all the way down to where it has to go. So they want to see some kind of policy or control in place to make sure that money is effectively used. And those are the two issues, and you only have a month to drive them hard, and that's what you need to do.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me comment on that real quick. I think from the obligation of the bonds, now a little bit of this is over my head, but I think in the obligations of the bonds, we have got to totally obligate all the dollars that are in place on a little bit of gas, a little bit of DMV fee, the privilege tax, and the tolls, 100% of it to the roads, period, to where we can't touch it. We've got to absolutely do that to where the government can't touch it. And you're right. You've got people out there that have become scared. And you know, it's just, I hate to say it, but you've got some people out there that probably, let me just say it this way. Maybe they didn't like what went on in the last session, or maybe they didn't like what went on 9 years ago. And so they're running around telling people, well, if you do this, you're going to get your taxes raised and everything, because people believe that with a bond or a levy, it means their taxes go up. And this is absolutely just hocus pocus. It's not true. Let me read one thing to you guys, because I think I've got it here. Well, that's not it. Well, I've got it somewhere. Here it is. This is really neat. You know, in the counties that are right up here around you guys, think about this. Randolph County is going to get $24 million. No, I'm sorry, $21.2 million, and they're going to have 24 projects that are on the book. This is like just walking in and saying, we're going to have 24 projects, we're going to create 424 jobs, and we're going to give you $21.2 million for free. You've already established everything. There is no tax. Get this, in Tucker County, it's $98.9 million on 12 projects. In Upshur County, it's $10.3 million on 22 projects. In Tucker County, it's 1,978 jobs. In Pocahontas County, it's $16 million on 14 projects. In Pendleton County, it's $35 million on 13 projects. And in Barber County, it's $9.2 million on 14 projects. Now, the reason for the giant jump in 98 million is quarter H. Guys, this is everything to us. It's every single thing there is to us. It's not taking one penny more out of anybody's pocket. And if anybody says that to you and you're at the gas station, get like a little Debbie and hit them with it. You know, I mean, but it's just wrong. It's just plain wrong. And every county is benefiting. And not only that, think about this for a second. All these big new projects and all that are really important, but we got roads that got potholes that you can't even get to the convenience store, can you? You tear your vehicle up every time you go anywhere. Well, the great part about this is this. With the interest rates where they are and with the dollars of these 4 buckets that are already in place, we can get more money than we need to do this. And what are we going to do with the more money? You can spend that money around and put more money right back into fixing the existing roads that we already have. All the money needs to go to the roads. We should not let one dime of this go to anywhere but roads. That's what I'm going to do with everything I got in me. Because this will absolutely explode us to the upside. Tourism, manufacturing, a way for people to get here and a way for them to get home. People to come to our state. Can you imagine? Just do the math. What 48,000 new jobs do to West Virginia? 48,000 new jobs. Do you have any clue how much money that is that will come to West Virginia? And as that money comes, for crying out loud, that's additional revenue to our state that you can spend back into education, you can spend back into tourism, you can spend back into everything. Just think of the payroll tax, nothing but the payroll tax. Somebody help me out. What is the payroll tax on a dollar? Somebody knows this better than I. I think it's about 7%. Is that? Say what? 765. All right, now let's do the math. 48,000 jobs. For every one of those jobs, if the person's being paid $50,000, that's about $3,800 per person. Now you multiply that times 48,000. Somebody's got a calculator there that could do it real quick. But 48,000 times 4,000 is almost, God, it's $200 million. $200 million, I think that's the math. I mean, that's a lot of pesos. That's all there is to it. I mean, any way you cut it, that is massive amounts of money. Now think about this. Think about the dollars, 48,000 jobs, the rest of the money they get. First of all, they're going to have to pay income tax on it. And if you say, well, there may be somebody from out of state here, we hope that every job is filled by West Virginia. We hope our tech schools and everything else are training more people. All these jobs are going to be, all of them are going to be bid labor intensive. So there's going to be training on the job. But now just think about this. What if it's somebody from out of state that's here that's got a job? Well, they're still going to pay payroll tax, and they're still buying their food at Kroger's, And they're still buying big gulps at 7-Eleven and their gasoline here. It's money. It's gigantic money. It's off the chart gigantic money to us. You know, and not only that, here's the next phase. Well, you may say, well, what happens when they're all done? Well, when they're all done, we're going to be flooded with people and tourism and everything else that's going to come here. We all know that. But the other flip side of it is when they're all done, there's just going to be more and more and more there to be able to do some more stuff. Somebody else ask something, please. Yes, sir.
It's a little bit off subject, but I have a question. I'm kind of neutral. I vote equally between the two parties.
That's good.
Elections, you have a strong opinion that income taxes should go down and sales taxes should go up. What would be the economic advantages of doing that?
Okay, now let me say this. And this some of you got to hit the clear button about me a little bit, okay? I wanted the sales tax to go to 6.35. On a family that was making 20 grand, that would have amounted to about $17 a year of cost. And I wanted to turn around and give that family back a rebate check for $100 or $150 that would have more than covered all that, okay? My belief is just totally this. I am absolutely against any taxes if we can float the boat, okay? I want to see us eradicate the state income tax someday without raising taxes anywhere. But in the situation that I was faced with, here's what was driving all my decision. It was just as simple. You had a $500 million deficit. You could throw the weak and the sick and our universities and our schools you could throw them out. And you could hurt them to the point in time where it just killed us everywhere. Or you had to come up with something. You had to do something. You had to raise some tax somewhere, or you had to throw them away. Now, the net of the whole thing, to me, was the only way that I could get the Republicans to the table was through their tax reform and get it done. You know, we didn't do either. But at the end of the day, if the roads come through and do what I think they're going to do, and the severance does stay steady, we don't need to raise the consumer sales tax at all. We don't need to raise another tax, and we can start on a pathway of lowering income tax. We really can.
I mean, how would that help us? What would that do?
Lowering income tax? Well, I mean, look around. I mean, you know, what's it done to Tennessee? I mean, the state income tax, going away from Tennessee has turned Tennessee on fire and everything. How could putting more money back in your hands hurt us? If we can physically do it, or fiscally do it in a way that it doesn't hurt the state, I would be all for giving money back to you and letting you decide where to spend the money. The government, everybody knows, no matter what we do in government, we screw everything up. You know, I would be 100% for giving money back to you, if we can do it. I mean, we don't want to throw the sick to the wayside. We don't want to hurt Medicaid. We don't want to hurt our schools and all that kind of stuff. We've got to protect our way of life. But these roads can really do it. It's amazing what the revenue can be from these roads. At that point in time, you're starting on your way. You're on your way. Somebody, thank you, sir. Somebody else, ask anything. It doesn't matter to me. You can ask me anything. Yes, ma'am.
Well, this amount of money that's going to be awarded for quarter age, is it just going to go for maybe 10 miles, or are they going to finish it from Kearns clear into Mountain Storm? Or are they going to put us on hold for 25 years again?
Okay, you can answer this, but before he answers this, because he can, Tom Smith, let me tell you, this guy's a superstar. He is a superstar. And the other thing, I picked all my cabinet. I never once asked them, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? Never, ever, 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 you know. But I was really lucky. I got some real winners. But let me just say this real quick. I was in Logan about 10 days ago. Highway 10, I think, Route 10, from Logan to Man, if you've ever been there, it's like, I mean, it's honest to goodness, it's like taking your life in your own hands driving down the road. It's bad. Well, they finished it. 20 years. 20 years. The Coalfield Expressway, they've been at it for 27 years. All this stuff is now, just now. Now answer the quarter age stuff.
The immediate funding in the general obligation bonds does finish the Kearns to Parsons section and opens that up completely to traffic, and so that's really important. You still have the Parsons to Davis section, you have the Wardensville to the Virginia State Line section. Those are both expensive sections, but what's really neat is, and if you go on Google Maps, you'll see this, that we're reaching the tipping point where traffic is going to start coming across central West Virginia instead of going to Maryland or down and up around Virginia. So I think it's going to open up, this next section that we get finished with the general obligation bonds will open up and traffic will start flowing across there. It's real important. It builds momentum to get Virginia to finish their section, for us to go ahead and get finished up. And the governor talked about the economic impact of all this bonding is additional funds that come in. I spent the last year of my life working with the Appalachian Regional Commission, and my job over there with them was to encourage the finishing of the Appalachian Corridor System, which Senator Byrd said was his crowning achievement. So we're all there trying to get it done.
And let me add one more thing to that. Donald Trump says he wants to do a $1 trillion infrastructure deal in the United States today. Have we not all heard that? I mean, that's what he wants to do. Now, in all honesty, his next thing on his plate is going to try to get tax reform through, okay? He's still got the health care issue to deal with and everything, but he wants to get to an infrastructure deal of $1 trillion. West Virginia will get money. West Virginia will get money beyond the money that we have here. So we'll be started, and then there'll be more dollars come. And there'll be Fed dollars come that will be, we will have maybe the ability to do matching dollars on a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 match. If we can do that, we're just starting the building program. And it'll be more and more and more. That's what we want. That's exactly what we want. And then we finish it all.
Well, it's dangerous to go from Montrose to Parsons now because the side of the road is dropping away. It's dangerous. Then we have a lot of people from here are going to Cortland Acres Nursing Home right at Thomas, and that's a dangerous road. It's almost impassable in the wintertime. So it really, really needs to be done.
I hear you. I hear you.
Another thing I want to mention, I'm not sure what the turnout for voting will be here because whoever chose October the 7th for a voting day for Elkins, West Virginia, the biggest sports festival in the state, and I had a hard time getting 81 poll workers. I had a call yesterday. She can't work, her granddaughter's coming in. We at 5:30 in the morning, the county clerk is going to get calls. They're going to call me. I've called about everyone in the county. We put it on the radio. We can't get poll workers, so I'm not promising what the turnout in Randolph County is going to be. It's not going to be against you. It's not going to be against the road bond. But my God, they got to go to Forest Festival.
I got you. And let me say this. Let me say, and I'm so glad because I've got it in my notes and everything, and I just some way it skipped me. But the Forest Festival has honored me beyond belief, you know, and they really have, and it's incredible. And I don't know how we picked the date, to tell you the truth, you know, but it is what it is, and you know, it's so So I would tell you to please just get all the people to go out and vote early, and then they don't have to hack up with it that day.
2 weeks early voting.
Yeah. So I apologize for the Forest Festival is unreal. I mean, it is something that everybody here should be so proud of. It could just be off the chart proud of it, and it's been a real honor, that I've had the opportunity to be there a couple go rounds.
Probably even be riding the main parade on
Well, I may be. If y'all would be kind enough to have me back, I'll try to come back. That's for sure.
I'm not charged that.
Well, okay. I got you. Yes, sir.
Governor, I'm all for the road bond issue. I'm going to support it all I can. I have a major concern for you, probably more for the secretary. Worked the last 7 years with the Manufacturers Association trying to fill jobs in manufacturing. We can't get enough workers. You're talking about 48,000 people you're going to find trained quickly to get on these jobs. I hope you're considering the time frame it's going to take to get that many people. It always sounds great that, we have jobs, we have good paying jobs in manufacturing. We can't get kids into the schools to do those kind of things. You're going to have a tough time filling those jobs.
I'm absolutely very aware of that and very concerned with it. But it's a great problem to have, and we just got to figure it out. We've got to accelerate our tech schools, and we've got to really, it's a great problem to have, and we'll figure it out. We'll stub our toe a whole lot in the beginning, but every day it'll get better. It's a problem though. Yes, sir.
I wanted to dovetail on the gentlewoman from over there about the completion of Quarter H, and I believe it was started sometime in the late 60s, early 70s, so it's been over 40 years. When the road bond passes, and we do secure this funding, I like the opportunity to lever up on additional federal funding from Trump's $1 trillion plan.
Sure.
One of the things that we've been pushing as a Quarter H Development Authority is P3 projects, and the current section that's under contract was a P3 contract. One of the things that I'd like to get your input, as well as the Secretary's, is if the $1 trillion plan does come to fruition after this road bond passes, is that something that you all would consider? One of the things that we had talked about is a comprehensive P3 that takes Davis to Parsons, Davis to Parsons, and then the other section to Virginia, put it all into one contract and let that contract go. Is that something that you guys would consider in basically completing this road with the additional funding?
Well, Tom, Holt, before you go, let me just say this. I've had the great liberty to go all over the state over and over and over. I'll bet you, if I totaled up the total number of people that are saying we ought to build the Coalfield Expressway, we ought to build, whatever, this or that, or Route 2 or whatever it may be, the total, I'll bet you I've had that many people say Quarter H is everything. I don't know of any artery that's as important as Quarter H. None. That's all there is to it. I hear it all the time. And so from my standpoint, if we can channel Trump's dollars or additional dollars that we're generating here, I think Quarter H is huge to this state, unbelievable to this state. And the reason for it is just think of this. There's all kinds of things. This natural gas hub that we're talking about, huge. There's another thing that I'm working on, and that is basically a connector that is a security connector. And it would follow all the way right across Quarter H that basically is a backup security to all the stuff that's in all the computers and everything in DC, that we could be housing all that information here just in case there, and God forbid, that there is a terrorist situation or whatever like that destroyed all that backup. And our mountains and everything, the magnetic fields and everything all work. And we're working on it, and everything. But again, everywhere you turn, it's Quarter H, so I think quarter H is number one priority with me. Go ahead.
Just a couple of things to add on that. And I think some of you in the room know this. Senator Byrd, many years ago, had a study about the evacuation of Washington, should that be required. And they looked at a north route, a south route, and quarter H was the best route. It was hands down the only route really that made sense getting out of Washington. The other thing that happened was the Appalachian Regional Commission just earlier this year has released an economic report looking at finishing the corridor system throughout the whole Appalachian area. Quarter H was one of the highest scoring routes there, 5-to-1 benefit cost ratio, $5 back for every dollar you invest in it. So we certainly get it. I'm thrilled with the words the governor's talked about the importance of quarter H. It's so important. Now, the specific question about P3s, we absolutely would be willing to entertain those. The problem with combining the Parsons to Davis and the Wardensville to Virginia line is they're at different places environmentally. The Parsons to Davis section has some extensive environmental work that has to happen that we need to get started on because of the nature of environmental work. But the Wardensville to Virginia line portion is much simpler to build. So it wouldn't be likely to combine those into the same contract.
Well, here's another part too, you know, and we don't want to do anything in the world that is going to damage our waters or, you know, our environment in any way. All of us, none of us want to do that and everything. But a lot of the red tape and the regulations that we've been just stumbling over and everything else, a lot of that the Trump administration is making it a little bit easier too. Yes, sir.
Governor Mike Taylor, Randolph County Commission.
Yes, sir, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Welcome to Randolph County. I can tell you that Mr. Phillips has been putting a lot of pressure on the county commission to get the road bond issue, and put a lot of pressure. He made a phone call. It's on the agenda for September the 21st, and I can tell you as one commissioner that it will have our support. We can't take a vote today. There's another commissioner in the room from Randolph County, and I suspect you'll have his support too as well. So I think it'll be moving along, at least in Randolph County. As Ms. Stevenson said, I'm not going to lie to you, when October the 7th came out, it's presented some challenges to Randolph County. But we as a commission and working with the county clerk have overcome those obstacles. We're going to make it as convenient for everybody in the county to vote as possible. And I would also urge that everybody get out and do the early voting as well. But we will have alternate precincts that were approved by the Secretary of State's office to allow the other precincts that you simply won't be able to access, the courthouse, the annex building, or that on election day. But we'll make it.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Yes, sir.
Governor, in regard to those 4 buckets of money up there, is there existing language that requires that that money be spent on and only on roads?
Tom, help me there.
Yes, the DMV fees, privilege tax, and gas tax go into the state road fund. The turnpike bucket actually is tolls that would have to be used for roads, can now be used in 10 counties. But yes, they have to be used on roads and set aside. Now, the important thing with the bonding is the indenture documents for the bonds actually require that money, and you nail it down and say that's what's going to be used to make the debt service payment. So it's something you work on up front and you make sure it's all tied down. There's no new taxes.
All right, that's all I needed was unqualified yes. By the way, Governor, my name is Tom Regan. I'm a resident of Randolph County. I'm a proud member and the tail twister of the Tiger Belly Lions Club. I know that means nothing to you, but it does allow me to be true to my own self.
God bless you, sir. Thank you. I want to go grouse hunting with you too. Okay. Listen, I know you've been, you know, you wouldn't be here if you didn't care. I mean, that's the bottom line. You really wouldn't be here if you didn't care. And I hope you think the same way of me. But really, at the end of the day, I mean this when I tell you I love you. I really do. And I love our state. And I really, I could go out and scream to the mountaintops till I'm blue-green, but I can't do it without you. And I know you love it too. So we're going to get there. God bless you. Thank you for coming.